Welcome, and thank you for your interest in learning how to recertify by activity in our new AMS system. The first thing you want to make sure that you do is to log into your AACE profile. Once you log in, you should be taken to your menu of options at this particular screen. Once you're able to log in, you want to select Recertify by Activity. Once you select Recertify by Activity, you're shown a page that shows your submission history for recertification. What's interesting about this is that while all 6 certifications show, you'll notice that many of them have a message that says you're not eligible to create that collection. That simply means that you currently are not certified in that particular area. So that is a safeguard so that someone is not accidentally filling out the wrong application or thinking that this was a means as to how to become certified. So for this particular person, which is our generic certification candidates, we see that he or she has 2 certifications. So they are eligible to create a collection for CCP and CEP. So we're going to start with the first one, CCP, simply because it's number 1, but if you were doing this, you may want to start with the certification that has the first expiration date. And once you've located your type of recertification application that you want to start, just select Create New Collection. Once you select it, you're brought to an instruction page. The instruction page basically will just reiterate what you actually have to accomplish to complete this application. There are 4 categories. Nothing has changed from the old application as far as the content. It's just not a PDF form anymore. This actually just allows you to go through, provide your documentation, and actually upload your documentation should you be required to, without having to use an old antiquated PDF form that sometimes is very hard or frankly contains some errors, some calculation errors in it. So you basically want to make sure that you understand you need 12 CEUs in order to submit the application, and then each category is not required. It's just you put the information in that you need, although you will need to have at least 1 CEU in 2 different categories. You don't have to use all 4, but you will need to have at least 1 CEU in more than one category. So when you're ready, after you've read this information, you click Next, and it will take you to the second area on the application navigation bar over here on the left-hand side. So of course, category A is employment. This is the stuff that you have performed over the last 3 years. It will reiterate what you can and cannot do. There's a maximum of 6 CEUs for this category. However, you can submit as many as you want. You just will not be approved for more than 6. It will tell you the number of options that you have in this category, different from the PDF form where you used to write it on a line. This actually, you're going to add them and create your own lines. So you want to make sure that you read this information so that you're aware of what you can and cannot do. Also, there is a handbook on our website that you may want to use as well that will actually walk you through it as well. It'll explain what recertification is. This particular handbook will explain recert by exam as well, as you can see on these pages. But this particular handbook, should you want to, as you're adding things, just have something onto the side, you could print it out and use it as a guide, might be helpful for you. But it is the exact same information that is pretty much listed at the top of each page. So let's say for the purposes of your application, everyone pretty much does stay employed, whether it's self-employed or with another company. So you want to click the Add button, and you're going to choose what type of performed employment is this. Is it something that is another person that you're employed with that's industry related? Are you self-employed, or are you a full-time instructor teacher? So we're going to keep this nice and clean for the purposes of the tutorial, and we're just going to go with straight employment. So I'm going to put my dates in there. Now I happen to know that I was certified on 12/31/2013. So while I can put dates in here that are prior to that, the system will only allow anything um, after 12/31/2013. So you want to be careful that you know that, and you can check that out on your um, certification overview on your main menu, so that you know when your last certification date was. But I happen to know that going into this. So I'm going to go from 1/1/2014, and I'm sorry, I didn't put the right date in there. Note that you cannot leave an end date blank. It needs to be filled in order for the system to automatically calculate how many years that you're claiming. So I'm going to claim this as of today, and you're going to put your employer name, and then this is where you're going to provide your details. Up here it's saying that you need to put your start dates and end dates, which is here, and then you're also going to need to give us some type of idea of what it is that you are doing. So let's pretend that I am the manager of certification, which I am. And I did things. I'm not going to belabor this by being very specific, but I can just give a brief overview. Now, for this particular category, you're going to see this documentation browse button here. Now, just as in the old application, you're not required for many of these items unless you're audited to provide documentation for this. But down here, this particular red information is important because it's saying for documentation, it's only required for self-employment, full-time teaching, because if I were to choose those, remember for self-employment, I'm going to have to provide a documentation, a notarized documentation that I am self-employed, and if I'm a full-time teacher, I need to have a statement from my supervisor indicating that I actually did perform those duties during the time that I'm saying. This is in a different category, this is in a different category, and so are that. So for this particular thing, if I just enter in my title and some of the key things that I did, I do not have to provide documentation. Now, if you get randomly selected upon submission to be audited, then you will be brought back into this area, which I will show you later, and you'll be able to then provide the documentation. So you have a choice. You can either provide the documentation now if you have it, and then that way you're good to go, or you can just continue on and take your chances that if you are just working for your employer, I work for AACE and I did things for this period of time, I do not have to provide any documentation for that. And then I'm going to click Save. This particular information is showing that I have 5.9 years of experience for this particular item here. And if I am wondering why that isn't right, or it's seems a little high or low, you can click this edit button here and it'll show you what you provided. And if you needed to change some dates, you certainly could do that at that time. And then, as I said, if you get randomly selected for auditing, when you come back in here, you'll be in a different state that's called audit, and you'll see a column here that says audit where you're actually able to then provide your documentation. So let's quickly go through some of these other things. I'm not going to select every particular item. I'm just trying to actually get to 12 CEUs so that we can get to the end and show you how to work for this. So when we're in category B, which is professional development, here again, you can refer back to the handbook, or you simply can read what's up in the top portion. But let's say that we need to add our professional development. So let's pretend that I went to a section meeting and I just put went to the section meeting. Here again, it's not required to add documentation, but I can save it. Notice that it's automatically calculating your CEUs for you. Of course, that's only 0.25 CEUs. So let's say I want to then put a continuing education. So let's say I did this until there, and the hours that I'm only required, I can only have 10 CEUs here. So let's say that I did 50 hours, and I am just going to type this, but you're going to provide some details as far as what was the name of the course, who sponsored the course, where was it located. Here again, unless you're being audited, you do not need to provide the documentation for that. Just list your information in this area, and I'm going to click Save. So as you can see, I now have 5.25 in this particular area. So if you have a lot of information to add, now I'm getting close to the 10 CEUs and I want to show you some CEUs in other categories. So I don't want to add any more here, but you can continue to add to this area. And while the requested points might actually be 25, your allowable is still only going to be 10. So keep that in mind, but this summary is a nice area to check when you're doing your research application. So now let's go to professional papers and industry. So basically, you're going to read your instructions there as well. You can use your handbook and that will give you your information. I did notice in this particular page that this needs to be updated. That's not what is typically shown there. So we're going to click Add, and then we're going to choose from our options. So let's just pretend that I actually published a paper. And I'm going to put my date in there, and I'm going to add lots of information that I'm just going to use generic. And once again, I'm not required. This is not one of those areas that I am required. So I'm going to save it, and it gave me 2 points. Okay, anytime that you're wondering how far you are with all of your points, instead of going back and counting them, you can always skip ahead to status review, and it'll let you know whether or not you've met the 12 CEUs, which you haven't. Okay. So then we want to go to volunteer service. So once again, you'll want to read this information to make sure that you are following the guidelines, or if you've printed out your handbook, you can refer to the handbook. And let's go ahead and add some things here. So we're going to put let's say that we actually were an appointed associate board member. So I was a board member from 1/1/2000 so till 12/5/2016. And I'm going to put this certification board, and I'm going to just put some information about that particular item. Okay, and so now you can see that I have 5.9 CEUs. We definitely know that we are over, because in performed, we have the 5.9, we have 5.25, we have 2, and we have 5.9. So when we get to our status and review, we certainly will have plenty of CEUs to actually check out and submit our application. So let's check our status and review, and we can see that we have met our 12 CEUs, and that our certification expiration date and certification is checked and fine, and we do have an address on file. So now we're able to submit checkout. And then what you're going to do is the amount that that is shown, if you're a member or not a member, you simply just select that you want to pay with a credit card and you provide your information. And this is just very generic information just to kind of get you through the process. And you'll click next and wait for your receipt. And once the system has processed your payment, you will see that in this particular certification actually was submitted for audit information needed. So once you submitted it, you're either going to get a status that says staff review, or the system automatically selected you for audit information, which this particular certification did. And then you would then just go through the information. This is thanking you, telling you you've randomly been selected, and then what you need to do, which is basically going through the application again, and it's saying this column now is there that we talked about earlier that says audit information. You would select this particular button and you would then go and provide your documentation for every item that you've submitted. You would do this for every particular page. The system will not allow you to go through until you've provided documentation for every particular item that you submitted. Has to have an attachment to it. So you want to make sure that you go through all of those, provide documentation, save it, make sure that you see one file there so that it's there, and then you'll be able to submit it for your audit review. And then you'll receive confirmation that it's been submitted for audit review. It changed your status for that. This is because it was selected for audit. Had this been a regular application, your first submittal status would have been changed to staff review. So filling out your application for recertification by activity is very easy to do. You can do this immediately after being certified so that you're saving your information as it's happening, just as we used to do in the recertification tracker. You can be adding this information just by simply logging in, go to Recertified by Activity, find your application that you can create. Of course, we've already used this particular item. Create the collection and begin to go through those 4 categories and add your information. And you can do that for 3 years until you've either entered everything in, you've reached your within 6 months of your expiration date, and you can actually see on the side of the let's go back, that you can see actually on the side of your application that you actually can submit and check out. So that is as easy as it gets. It stays nice and tidy within your own AACE profile so that you're not using 3 and 4 different systems to remember passwords and did I put this information in or didn't I? It's all housed in your own AACE profile in the menu Recertify by Activity, and that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 304-296-8444, extension 1110, or give us an email send us an email at certification@aacei.org. We hope this has been helpful for you, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you. Have a good day. Thanks.